Hello everyone, this is an invasion that was recorded live at an investment property in the ghetto. In today's video, I'll show you 7 tips on how to protect your investment property in the ghetto and in low-income neighborhoods. At the end, I'll also include a bonus tip and show you the full video clip of the break-in. So stay tuned. Before we continue, I would like to invite you to please subscribe and like by following the links below. Thank you very much. This helps get out this information to more people and to help more people with content like this. Thank you very much. We are moving forward. Thank you. Safety and security when investing in the ghetto, in the hood, in low-income neighborhoods. So I'm going to give you 7 security tips for investing in low-income neighborhoods, plus a bonus will be included at the end. So a bonus tip will be included at the end. Thank you. At this point, I want to point out that when we say investing in the ghetto or investing in war zones, or when we say investing in the hood, we are actually referring to investing in low-income neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, in our training at Property Investor Guru, we use the more formal word or the more formal phrase, investing in low-income neighborhoods. Tip number 1. So tip number 1 is choose a good section and block of the neighborhood. So choosing the good section and a good block in the neighborhood is the first tip. So when choosing a low-income neighborhood, you are not only supposed to focus on just choosing the neighborhood. After you choose the neighborhood, you have to choose a good section within the neighborhood and a good block within that neighborhood where you are eventually going to invest. And this is one of the biggest factors that's going to contribute to your success in the investment in the low-income neighborhood. This is applicable to people who have not yet bought an investment property. So this tip is actually applicable to you if you have not yet bought the property and you're still choosing. When you're choosing, you have to understand that you have to choose a good section of that neighborhood. Choosing the correct location in the low-income neighborhood will also help you with tenant acquisition and retention. This is covered in more depth in our training. You can see the link below. So what I'm saying here is that when you choose a neighborhood, after choosing the neighborhood, you have to choose a good section of that neighborhood. We're talking about low-income neighborhoods here, because in these neighborhoods there are parts that are actually good, that are safer relatively than other parts, or that are actually very safe. So you have to know how to select that property and that section. In the training, we also spend time talking about neighborhood selection and property selection. So we go actually into more depth talking about those things. Now we'll move on to the next tip. Tip number 2, engage the neighbors, talk with the neighbors, befriend the neighbors, say hi to them. Let them know that you're there, that you're working in the property and you're improving the property. When you engage the neighbors, you have to understand that the neighbors want the property to be fixed, because when the property is fixed, it helps the neighborhood. And when the neighborhood is helped, the general lifestyle of the neighbors is improved. So you can also let your contractor talk with the neighbors if you want, and encourage him to talk with the neighbors. When it comes to it, you can also give them chores, like let them clean the front yard or something. In some instances you could just do that and maybe pay them $15 or something like that. It's a very small amount, but what it does is that they begin to feel like they are part of your team. So when it comes to it, they will protect your property. You'll begin to realize that when you get to the property, they will tell you that such and such happened. This person came and looked at the property. This city inspector came. So they're actually beginning to watch your property on your behalf, simply because you engaged them and you spoke with them and you talked to them and you included them in the process of your developing of the property. When you engage them, they get to know you and they get to help you protect your property. Tip number 3, install security cameras or install a security system. Installing a security camera or security cameras or installing a security system is very important. This is usually applicable when you have your electrical system already running, so you are able now to install a security system. You could use services like ring.com, ADT, and Simply Safe. Just as a matter of reference, the footage that you saw at the beginning and that I'm going to show you at the end of this video is actually from ring.com. There was a Ring camera inside the living room when the invasion happened, so there was security. There was a security camera inside the property. So that's a good example. Install security cameras. Install security cameras. So that's tip number 3. This is tip number 4. Install fake security cameras. So for tip number 4, we're saying install fake security cameras. This is very similar to tip number 3, where we spoke of installing a security system or real cameras. So fake security cameras and real cameras, they work by deterring invaders and thus protecting your property. Place the cameras conspicuously and make them very easy to see. Place them in places or at places where people can easily see the camera, especially the fake ones, especially the fake cameras. You can place them outside the property, maybe in the backyard or the front yard, and people can easily see them, right? These can be placed soon after purchasing the property. Usually these fake cameras don't really require any hard wiring. Some of them have you have an option to place a battery inside there and maybe make it flash a bit, but generally you don't really need to do those things. You just put it out there, you just put the camera out there, and when people see them, they will assume that those are real cameras. So also you don't have to tell anyone. As a matter of fact, you should not tell anyone that the cameras are fake, including your contractors, including the people who are working on the property. You should not tell them that the cameras are fake. Do not tell the neighbors that the cameras are fake, because the word can travel. The word can travel and someone might end up hearing that information, and and they use it to their advantage. They can invade the property thinking that all the cameras are fake, right? So avoid telling anyone that the cameras are fake. As you can see, putting those fake cameras will definitely protect your property, because it will deter invaders and thus protect your property. This is a very simple method, and a fake camera can cost as little as $5. So it's a very cheap way of protecting your property. Tip number 5, lighting. Use lighting. In this instance, what we are saying is that install light or turn on your lights in maybe in the front porch and in the backyard. And this gives the impression that the property is occupied. When there's light, people tend to avoid that property. If there's no light, especially in a low-income neighborhood, people can even come to the property and just sit in front of the property knowing that there's no activity in the property, and that attracts bad attention. One simple way to avoid those things is simply to turn on your lights. Even during the day and during the night, when people see the light on, they will assume that there is someone, or at the very least it will look like there is some kind of activity within the property. They may not even know for sure if the property is vacant or not, simply because you turned on the light. This strategy of property protection, or this tip, is applicable before your property is occupied or before you find a tenant. So that is tip number 5: lighting. Use lighting. Lighting deters invaders and it deters the bad guys. Tip number 6: bordering. Bordering helps your property, protects your property from invaders. It protects your investment property from break-ins. So if you have a property and it's not yet occupied and renovations have not yet commenced, we would suggest something like putting plywood and completely covering the windows and completely covering the doors before you start renovating. If the renovations are still very far, you could completely cover the property that way, and people will find it difficult to break into that property if it's completely covered. If you have done the renovations and you're at a very advanced stage, you should also put burglar bars. So what these do, they just make it difficult for the invader to get in through the windows and to get in through the doors, because you have sealed those doors with burglar bars, just like the one shown in this picture. Now, this process protects your property. You have to understand that the invaders and people who break into properties in low-income neighborhoods, generally they don't have tools. Generally, they're not very sophisticated. They're not very complicated people. They don't even have a screwdriver that they could buy for 99 cents at a 99-cent shop. They don't have tools, generally speaking. So even if you look at the person in the video I showed at the beginning, someone who had broken into a property. If you look at that person, he does not have tools. So these guys are not complicated. So if you just put burglar bars, more likely than not, most of them are not even going to attempt to get in. Something as simple as burglar bars will protect your property in a low-income neighborhood, generally speaking. Of course, there could be some outliers, and your property could be invaded. Tip number 7: install signs. Install warning signs like "Do not trespass," "Property under surveillance." These warning signs will help deter people and deter the bad guys from invading your property. These signs and other measures mentioned here keep invaders out and discourage people. They discourage people from loitering at the property. This helps keep the property safe and clean, and thus driving down maintenance costs and protecting your investment. These are very simple tips. This sign, which is shown in this picture, you can actually get it for less than $1 at Walmart. 97 cents you can get this sign, and just put it up on a window, and maybe get 2 of them. Actually, put one in the front, one at the back. When people see this, they will keep clear. They'll know that there's something about this property. This property seems to be protected, and they'll try to keep away from it. It will help protect your property. Now, if you combine these things, let's say someone sees the light is on, there are butler bars, and there's a sign, and there are cameras, that will protect your property. Just those things are going to protect your property, and the other things that we mentioned. Now, here is the bonus. Tip number 8. This is the bonus. Let's do this. Tip number 8. Bonus. Maintenance. A well-maintained property looks secure. When the grass outside and the yard is kept clean, the grass outside is cut, potential invaders assume that they assume that someone is monitoring the property. They see that this property is not neglected. They know that someone is watching it. It's not neglected. Even when they see someone taking care of the property, so the property looks neat, it looks well maintained, so they know that it's being looked after. So it's a riskier property to invade if it's well maintained. And then the other thing is that these invaders, they know sometimes some of them are really actually loitering around, and when they see that the property is being taken care of and is well maintained, then they'll avoid invading it because it's higher risk. They don't want to be caught. Now let's go back to the video that we saw at the beginning of this presentation, the video of the home invasion, the home invasion that was recorded live at an investment property in the ghetto. So the things to note in this video is that number one, this invader is not complicated. He does not even have tools. He does not even have a screwdriver. He didn't even have a hammer when he invaded this property. He's simply not sophisticated, right? He's not even covering his face. On top of that, he looks at the camera. So when the police came in, they were able to look at his face in the footage, and they were able to even create pictures of him, and literally within a day someone had already identified him. So these guys are not very complicated, and this process is not really very complicated. The challenge or the mistake that this particular investor did at this property is that he bought a property in a bad section of the low income neighborhood, right? So he bought a property that did not follow tip number 1. Remember, tip number 1: buy a property in a good section of the low income neighborhood. When you do that, you will avoid properties or you will avoid the risk of being invaded simply by choosing the right block in that low income neighborhood, right? The investor did not follow tip number 1. So that's very important. This is why we emphasize these things. As you can see, after some time, at a certain point, the investor is actually watching this guy in his property, and he could have actually initiated a call. You could have actually talked to him, because it's a ring camera. It was going to allow him to actually say, "Hey, what are you doing in my property?" And he was going to be so scared, but he chose to trigger the alarm. So you'll notice that the alarm is triggered and the invader simply runs away. And fortunately, in this instance, nothing was stolen and nothing was broken. The invader was able to open the window somewhere. Maybe the window was left open during the day, so he was able to open the window and he used it to get in and out the window in the kitchen. The motion detector, the camera was placed in the living room, so it's one of the best places to place a camera, because an invader will almost always go to the living room. So once he got inside the living room, the motion detector was activated, the investor was alerted, and now everything he's doing is he's being watched, and he doesn't know that, and he looks at the camera. And yeah, so that's it. This is a very good example, and if these tips were followed, this will not have happened, right? And so this is why we're here, giving you all these tips and wishing you well in your investment journey. And if you're investing in low-income neighborhoods, or in the ghetto, or in the hood, or in war zones, or whatever you want to call it, these are great tips to know. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Remember to check out pacedcourse.com. That's pacedcourse.com. That will give you more information, and if you're interested in more training, you'll be able to find the links at pacedcourse.com or follow the links given below. Remember also to like and subscribe to this channel. That will help us to actually reach more people, and also it will help us to continue creating more content like this for free and help investors and people all over the United States and beyond. Thank you very much.